Morning, everyone. It's actually afternoon nearly, isn't it? Lunchtime and this session stands in between. I was unfortunate to miss the morning session, but what the flavor that I get from Mr. Agarwal here is that there seems to be some bit of debate on what is M2M. So I came with my prepared, kind of list of saying that why standardization, because that's the topic, and why regulatory, similarity, interoperability. I will come to that. But given a chance, it would be very, very appropriate, I think, to debate for a little while, at least have a question in the mind of what is M2M all about. And we are very freely saying, machine to machine, whereas we are expecting these machines, the so-called human creations, to actually gain human qualities of being a sensor. See the paradox sitting over here, and I'm not just juggling words semantically. We are expecting a sensor to tell us what is the temperature. We are expecting a sensor to tell us what is the moisture in the air. We are expecting a sensor to try and tell us at a particular pressure it is applied, what it should do, and so on and so forth. So what is happening, in my opinion, is we are trying to associate a human quality of sense, touch, visual view or something and convert that to a machine. And we are expecting an observation to be done by the machine, to be interpreted with a preset data feed and take some action. That's why machine to machine is probably going to be required, let's say. But are we inventing something that has not been here? Meaning when the internet got invented, quote unquote, in 1993, what do you think it was? On an internet given scenario, what we are doing here is perfect wireless communication, right? Neither am I speaking on my own kind of chipset which is embedded in my mouth, or neither are you hearing on a chipset that is de-encrypting from your ear. That is perfect wireless communication. But when internet came in, we actually started the machine-to-machine phase 1. Let's say I can seriously say that, because what we were doing is connecting inanimate objects called PCs or microcomputers or mainframes back onto a network which had the computing power or ability in order to interpret data and do something about it. The difference was that there was probably a human being keying in something. As you kept on improving this whole, statistical nature of the internet, we now see that the human interface itself probably is gone less. When you go on vacation, just as an example, you put an out of office. You're saying that we'll be back on so and so forth, email will be delayed response or something. Who's giving that response? It is that Microsoft Office or Microsoft Enterprise or any other mail system that you're using is probably given a rule saying that when you get a mail between so and so time and so and so time, respond with this. We are giving a human characteristic of responding to a machine. We are empowering that machine or that system to respond on our behalf. So while we keep on deliberating saying that is machine to machine something which is inanimate, or is machine to machine something that we have been doing for the last so many years, some of these answers will start coming back. What I would like to hazard and suggest to this august audience is that what we are going to see is the next phase of communication between objects. Yeah, and in my opinion, it is facilitated by three, as I say, the Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh of connectivity, cloud, and mobility, or broadband, you can take it. Neither of these three are going to be present. You will not have an ecosystem that can do anything, whether it is M2M or we call it Internet of Things. When you have these three together, meaning only when there is connectivity, cloud makes sense. Otherwise, cloud without connectivity is zero. And only when these two come together, you are utilizing the potential of broadband. Otherwise, what are you going to do with 4G? 83 megabits per second. You can shove people into it. There is so much bandwidth. What will you do with so much bandwidth? I think some of us have also been talking about saying that we are waiting for broadband to happen so that then we can connect up all the villages and we'll do better agriculture. In my humble opinion, 70% of the country today is also covered with 2G waves. We still have the potential of doing transmissions at 40 to 50 kilobits per second, small b, and we have got all our emails flowing. We have never missed an email over the last so many years, even on our Blackberries, for example. even if you consider starting simple agricultural communications, which are going to be a sensor that is put in the ground, is going to transmit the soil substrate, warmth, humidity, climate, nature, whatever XYZ, twice in a day, you don't require big broadband for that. You require broadband when you're trying to transmit the ECG of a person from a remote village back into the city for analysis. So there are use cases that we can go by. It is not necessary that we will wait for eternity till broadband gets rolled out all over in the country. Of course, there is huge progress and we will keep on making that, as we have seen in this country for the last 2 decades. But my humble submission is, for certain applications, there is no need to wait, for this whole thing to happen. And we can start doing that now. Smart grids. I don't know whether AMR and AMIs require huge bits of bandwidth. You can easily just, put in a GPRS oriented SIM card and you will still get the health check signal every day twice. There is a sensor development company I came across, back in Palo Alto, who is developing a sensor which will not cost more than $3 to $4, which will have a battery which can, even if it is embedded in the ground at a depth of 2 meters, let us say, will last for 30 years, 30. So when you put such sensors back into agricultural fields and you take this, all these readings, which are going to be utilizable to the farmer, but have we asked how? What will that sensor that is put in the ground do to the farmer? And in my opinion, this is what it can potentially do. Apart from, it will give you readings that will be juxtaposed back with saying that if temperature, humidity, soil substrate is equal to X, please spray insecticide number Y. Because when these conditions happen, these type of insects come, they will harm your crop and you will have a problem. So that is more of a negative orientation, let's say. The positive orientation is, if these 3 conditions happen, start sowing your seeds, because in 3 weeks from now, you will start getting the sprouts. So what you need to do is assimilate that humongous amount of data, that M2M is going to generate, have the capability to infer, take some action which will reduce negativity or increase positivity. That's how I think we are seeing it. Call it M2M or IoT, it is eventually being inferred by human beings. Please do not forget. Else we will let machines run our life. Yeah, so I think that's the perspective. I just wanted to have this debate. It's a bit, my apologies, a bit philosophical rather than scientific. But I think the end benefit of decreasing negativity or increasing positivity is the only thing that we need to, kind of keep in mind. I have one more very interesting example that that we'll be very happy to essentially lead to commerce and gain, which can be advertising. I'm just trying to link all these things together, saying that what should a company like Google have in its interest for trying to monitor houses? They cannot advertise on Nest, right? They cannot say saying that, boss, now buy new surf, Naya surf. They cannot, because it is machine to machine. Who is going to read? But what it gives you is an insight into behavioral patterns of individuals who are humans, who are benefiting from this M2M network. So the applications of this technology, while I think on a transactional level, are very much about reading, inferring, taking action, and therefore gaining benefit. The ecosystem around it has the potential to probably touch much more parts of our life than what one can imagine. And this is, I'm just giving you an example out of my head. If you contemplate, there are many more solid examples on agriculture, on healthcare, on transportation, meaning driverless car. Khuda na khasta, if it goes and hits somebody, who is liable? Comes back to the KYC norm. Yes, so who's going to be liable? I'm sure Mr. Agarwal will have a good panel on that, let's say, and we are contemplating all these things. So there are a lot of things, and the earlier panelist said this in a very beautiful way. Standardization, because we cannot be not interoperable. It is KYC and security, and it is definitely about availability of spectrum. And it is end user, kind of experience. So I'm not going to repeat that. So I thought I'll just give you this one perspective of, while we are going on the bandwagon of saying M2M and Internet of Things, please remember and pinch yourself that it is going to be used by human beings in order to make their lives better or reduce the negativities of life. Yeah. So that's just a perspective that we want to offer. Much more discussions I'm sure will follow, and we'll be happy to contribute. Thank you.